Being a dad was the best part of my life. It was going to happen, and I had no control of it. Like, why couldn't I just let go? I couldn't let go. I just wish I could have let go. I didn't know what I had done. Like, I was in control of what I could think. People were defining me by one moment in my life. They don't know, like, what happened before, what can happen later.
In his prison interview with 3 agents, Chris Watts unintentionally gives linguistic clues about his personality. Chris describes what he supposedly felt on the day he committed his heinous crime. What do Chris's words really mean, and how can linguistic analyses be used to identify and describe deceptive people and criminals? These are the questions we'll dive into. In the following, Chris describes the final moments leading up to his crime.
That conversation went so many different ways. Like, they'd gone from like staying together to not staying together to just like all of the above.
Okay.
Are you crying? Is he crying?
It's back and forth. It's like, she's got, mascara. She didn't wash her face when she got home. She had makeup on still, so mascara was running all over her and stuff like that. Yeah, it was nothing about that conversation. I just wish I could take all of it back. The whole everything back, everything. But
the question is why, though? Why does he presumably wish to take it all back? Because he's truly remorseful? Does that seem likely? Not when we consider the facts that he had a hard time even feigning sadness when people thought that his family was only missing.
And it's just like, it's vanished. Like, she's not, like, when I got home yesterday, it was like a ghost town. Like, she wasn't here. Kids weren't here.
Where'd you get that shirt?
Oh, this is, I think she got it off Amazon, but this is my favorite college sports team.
Wasn't she just there?
She was, just in North Carolina. Yep. So she actually probably got it from there. Usually she gets stuff from Amazon, but this one, I like these shirts a lot.
This passage and some of the passages we're about to hear suggest that when Chris says he wishes he could take it all back, he has his own interest in mind first and foremost, not his family's, how he'd wish that he hadn't ended up in prison.
I just want to get out of here. I know that God has a plan for me, and it's to be in prison right now, but not stay here. Because he brought me here for a reason. But he also wants me to do something on the outside. I know I just can't sit here and just wait.
so then when did it turn? As far as that conversation? Mm-hmm. This is at the end when I was telling her, like, I told her I didn't love her anymore. That's when it happened.
It happened is one of many instances of distancing language. Distancing language can be a sign that a speaker isn't comfortable thinking about what they did, or it can have a self-serving motive, to try to get people to stop thinking about the speaker as a monster, and think about the speaker as a person. In Chris's case, it seems to be a combination of both, that he isn't comfortable thinking about what he's done, thinking about that side of him, and that he has self-serving motives for not wanting that side of him to be completely exposed. Because as we'll hear several times, Chris minimizes his agency, accountability taking, and tries to get the agents to think of him as a person and not as a monster. And along the way, Chris goes overboard in self-pity and downplaying of his crime. Don't miss it. Welcome to the channel. If you're excited about language and how it works, like and subscribe for more videos. Next, Chris goes out of his way to minimize his agency by making it sound like he was controlled. Notice how that affects people's perception of him, potentially. Let's listen.
What happened? She told me to get off her, and then I put my hand on her. Okay.
Why did you get on her like that?
I just, when we got on the bed, that's just where I got on.
Is that so she would listen to you?
I felt like she could probably listen to me just laying beside her, but I got on top of her. And every time I think about it, I'm just like, did I know I was going to do that before I got on top of her?
Really? That's an interesting thought, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know if you knew.
Just like everything that happened that morning, I don't know, like I try to go back in my head, I'm just like, I didn't want to do this, but I did it. It's everything just kind of like...
Felt like you had to?
It just felt like it was... I don't even want to say it felt like it had to. It just felt like there was already something in my mind that was implanted that I was going to do it, and I woke up that morning, it was going to happen, and I had no control of it.
Chris says, every time I think about it, suggesting that he's thinking about it a lot. This also means that Chris has had a lot of time to think about how to describe the events, and in his TV interviews, Chris spoke as if he was reciting a script.
I hope that she's somewhere safe right now and with the kids. I was hoping that I would just get ran over by the kids running in the door and just like barrel rushing me, but it didn't happen. And it was just a traumatic night trying to be here. My kids are my life. I miss telling them, hey, you got to eat that or you're not going to get your dessert, you know, and just like you're not going to get your snack after. I miss that. Like I miss them, you know, cuddle up on their couches, and it's just earth shattering. I don't feel like this is even real right now. It's like a nightmare that I just can't wake up from.
Chris's facial expressions don't match the emotional words he carefully uses, and he already says, I miss that, even though it's only been one night. Overall, Chris speaks like someone who knows that his family isn't coming back, and who is very much concerned with giving people the right impression of him. In a missing persons case, these are red flags. Why is this important for the prison interview? It's important because it establishes that Chris is a liar and preoccupied with his image. Thus, when he claims that he had no control of it, he's most likely aware of the fact that that portrays him in a more favorable light than if he'd said that he had full control of it and knew exactly what he was doing. Grammatically, the phrases something that was implanted and it was gonna happen leave Chris out of the picture. Chris consistently minimizes his agency. Chris's ability to lie and indifference to lying was present from an early age.
I've always had a really crazy imagination. So like when I was a kid, like I even convinced my teacher I went to Japan over the summer or to China or something. But she said, you should just write down your story, like how you cope with this.
Why did you convince your teacher you had gone to another country?
It was just like what you did over the summer. And I was like, oh, well, to China. You're still right. She actually believed it. I was really convincing. It was, they parent teacher conference said, so how was China? What? Nope.
On a surface level, this story could be seen as innocuous. However, on a deeper level, observing his interviews and interrogations, it shows that taking advantage of people's trust is something that comes easy to him.
There was already something in my mind that was implanted that I was going to do it, and I woke up that morning and it was going to happen, and I had no control of it.
You never thought about it before?
It was just like, I don't want, like in the sentencing hearing that prosecutor said it takes 2 to 4 minutes, something like that to happen. Like, why can't I just let go? I didn't.
Oh, I didn't.
I just let
Was
go.
it feeling like it was in motion and you just couldn't stop it?
Yeah, it was just like, I don't even want to know what she saw when she looked back at me, honestly.
Chris avoids answering the first yes-no question that implies planning and careful thought, and thus strong agency.
You never thought about it before?
However, he answers the second and more convenient yes-no question that's merely a summary of his claims.
Was
it feeling like it was in motion and you just couldn't stop it?
So once again, Chris underlines the notion that he was controlled during his crime. In that regard, the words what she saw
when she looked back at me
could be seen as a subtle reference to him being a different person at the time.
Did you look at her? What was she doing?
fighting.
Why do you think she wasn't fighting?
Maybe she was praying. Maybe she was just. Now I read the Bible. It said, where the scripture says, don't forgive these people for they do not know what they do. Mm-hmm. Maybe she was saying that. I don't know what she was saying in her head, but she.
First of all, Chris wasn't asked what his wife wasn't doing. He was asked what she was doing. However, he chooses to answer in the negative, which indicates hesitation and possibly undisclosed information. Secondly, this passage has a self-serving function. The Bible has more than 31,000 verses, so why did Chris choose these exact verses? Chris can use these particular verses about not knowing what they do to emphasize the point he's been hammering, that he felt like he was being controlled, as if he didn't know what he was doing. Chris suggests that his victim forgave him in the moment. This is wishful thinking to say the least, but it's more than wishful thinking, because to Chris, It's not enough to have his victim forgive him. No, he expects that forgiveness from other people too, from us. In the following, notice how he downplays his crime.
There was one church service, the only one I've family gone to in here, and said you're not defined by one moment in your life. And I think that's like people are defining me by one moment in my life. They don't know like what happened before or what can happen later. Right. So I just hope that, maybe hopefully one day people can stop judging everybody.
This is extreme downplaying of his decisions and what his victims had to endure. Chris says this as if other people should be able to relate to doing something evil, when the truth is this wasn't just one moment in time. Implicitly, he judges other people for defining him by one moment in time. By inference, then, Chris actually says that it's people, us, who need to learn this lesson, as if he's in a position to remind or even reprimand people. Overall, this indicates a prominent lack of guilt and a prominent sense of self-importance and entitlement.
I just want to get out of here.
It's just kind of like when I got on top of her, we started talking. That was it. It's kind of like in my head, or like in the back of my head, that was going to happen. And just like at the end of the conversation, it was just like, that's what happened. I just wish I could have let go.
With started talking and conversation, Chris makes it sound like an almost voluntary interaction. His statements downplay the seriousness of the situation and suggest that he's unable or unwilling to view the situation from his victim's perspective. The distancing and evasive language in this passage is staggering. The words, "and that was it," are abrupt and once again underline his reluctance to go into details. Conversely, he's had no problem detailing how he allegedly wasn't in control. Thus, Chris emphasizes what he wants to emphasize and minimizes what he wants to minimize. That was going to happen is a repetition, suggesting a supposed lack of agency in the moment, and that's what happened has the same function, almost as if the crime was inevitable.
That was going to happen. That's what happened.
Chris phrases this as if he didn't have a choice in the matter. However, he uses a dependent adverb just to express it, an adverb that Chris uses excessively.
I just wish I could have let go.
A word is dependent when it requires an attendant thought to make sense. So when a speaker says, "we're just friends," they're comparing being friends to not just being friends. Likewise, Chris could be comparing not being able to let go to actually being able to let go unintentionally. The latter would make his actions voluntary and deliberate, a far cry from the perception he wants people to have of his supposed lack of control.
It just felt like somebody was like behind me, just like, I just couldn't let go.
Did it seem like it was that long? 2 to 4 minutes? How long did it seem for you?
It almost kind of felt like it was longer almost, because it felt like time was standing still. It's kind of like I just thought my life just disappearing before my eyes, but it just like I couldn't let go. It was like somebody else, like if you picture somebody else around you, holding your hands, holding you, keep you from not letting go.
Speakers use association to normalize their thoughts, so that linguistically they're not alone in having these thoughts. So with the words,
like if you picture somebody else,
Chris associates with the agents and simultaneously underlines his agenda of minimizing agency. I say agenda because Chris has made so many repetitions of this point, both motivated and unmotivated, that they point to deliberate speech acts. Here, for example, his repetition is unmotivated, because he was asked how long it seemed for him, not if he felt controlled.
Holding you, keep you from not letting go.
The words, "to keep you," imply that he wanted to let go, but wasn't allowed to. It should be noted that people with prominent psychopathic traits will often blame another entity as a way of getting off the hook to avoid being held responsible or solely responsible. And they'll frequently make it sound like everyone's capable of the same type of evil that they're capable of. Again, this is association.
That basically I was a normal person. I led a normal life, except for this one small but very potent and very destructive segment of it. And I was okay. Children who may be unattended or unaware that they may be a Ted Bundy who has that vulnerability to that predisposition to be influenced by that kind of behavior, by that kind of movie. It was like coming out of some kind of horrible trance or dream. I can only liken it to have been possessed by something so awful and so alien, and then the next morning wake up from it.
Every man has a demon that lives within him, but to control that demon, that's the hard part. That's the key. Control, self-control.
Did you in your life meet the demon within you?
Yeah, sure. I met him shakedown. I made love with the demons within me.
Finally, notice the perspective here.
It's kind of like I just saw my life just disappearing before my eyes, but
Chris shows concern for himself first and foremost, how he saw his life disappearing before his eyes, not the life of the person whose life he was actually in the process of taking.
Then what?
just but just after, shenanigans, I guess, once she was gone, it was just like, I didn't know what was going on. It's like, there was like a traumatic, I don't know what you call it, traumatic event type, and everything, and like, I was shaking, I didn't know what had happened. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what I had done. I still wasn't in that right state of mind. I don't think like I was in control of what I could think or what I could do at that point in time. Like most people say, like, why don't you just call 911? I'm just like, unless you're in that situation, you don't know. We don't know what you would have done. It's easy to play Monday morning quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
There are several self-repairs. These suggest internal stress about giving certain information.
But just after, shenanigans, I guess, once she was gone. And
when Chris finally completes his utterance, it's in the form of a euphemism, once she was gone, minimizing his crime. Deceptive people, and in this case confirmed liars, like Chris, frequently use euphemisms to portray themselves in a more favorable light. This way, they don't emphasize their crime, but their supposed lack of control. As Chris claims, I didn't know what had happened. I didn't know what I had done. I wasn't in control of what I could think. These are big claims. It takes a lot for a person not to be in control of what they think. A little more than the traumatic event type thing Chris vaguely tries to diagnose himself with.
I don't know what you call it, traumatic event type and everything, and like,
even if we grant that Chris wasn't in control of his own thoughts, there was a long drive to the oil tanks, a long drive where he had plenty of time to get in control of his thoughts. Chris sounds annoyed with people who criticize him for not calling 911. He says, unless you're in that situation, as if this is a situation that anyone could end up in, which it isn't, and says it's easy to play Monday morning quarterback, as if that expression is fitting in this context. How dare people imply that he was in control of his thoughts and knew exactly what he had done, when he's tried so hard to make people believe that he wasn't. In that sense, Chris's annoyance makes sense from his perspective.
I still wasn't in that right state of mind.
The words, that right state of mind, presuppose that Chris has a right state of mind, and once again underline his narrative about not being himself.
Those are my kids. It's my baby. I'm just talking to them every night. Help Steve. Every time I see pictures of them, I don't know how it's going to be. Being a dad was the best part of my life. I took it all away.
As a determiner, those assumes distance, as opposed to the determiner, these.
Those are my kids.
This picture right here, Celeste and Bella, those are my life. I helped make those kids.
Likewise, he doesn't say how he could have done this, but how this could have happened.
I don't know how it's going to be.
With the words, I took it all away, he refers to himself, to the alleged best part of his life.
So I took it all away.
He blames himself for what he's lost, not for what his family's lost. These aren't the only ways Chris's self-focus is revealed. It's also revealed when he hammers the same point over and over again.
I think that's the hardest part for us, Chris, is we see those videos, we see that love that you had for your girls, like, it's obvious to us, and even to us, it's hard for us to understand how a dad who's given piggyback rides and, you know, making snacks and watching princess movies and those kinds of things, how you get to that point, you know?
Like I said, it was just like something else was controlling me that day. I had no control over what I was like to fight back.
Yeah.
Blaming another entity is a lot more convenient, much better image-wise, than talking about conscious decisions that you had full control of and that you had a long time to change. What do you think about this interview? Let us know in the comments. Until next time.